Welcome to the Well-ish podcast, sponsored by Iowa Specialty Hospital, where real life meets better health. We're your hosts. I'm Derek.
I'm Anthony.
Let's
dive in.
All right. Well, welcome to episode 1 of the Well-ish podcast. My name's Derek.
My name's Anthony.
That's Anthony. Yep, he said it himself. So, what this really is, what we're really hoping to talk about is, I think, just overall wellness, but emphasizing kind of the daily journey that it really is all about, right? And that's kind of why that's why we're calling it the Well-ish podcast, which shout out our number one sponsor, our specialty hospital. The Well-ish podcast is meant to be about wellness in real life. I think is kind of what we're hoping for.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Wellness in real life. I think a lot of times, especially with social media right now, like we think about wellness and it gets it's a lot. There's so much you could be doing to be better off, but it doesn't need to be that serious. It does and it doesn't. Like it's like you mentioned, it's real life. Real life just takes away just makes it more approachable, I feel like. And that's, I think, our goal here is to make all this stuff approachable and talk from like our own experiences too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I think for me, when I think of wellness, it really comes down to how do I feel? Do I feel good? And if I do, then isn't that the whole point? I think it's really, really easy with social media to see a million different images of what wellness looks like, but overall, that's them. That's not you, right? And I think it's super important to remember that how you feel is the most important thing. Do you feel good? And if you do, then you're doing something right. And um, so I think it's just trying to emphasize yourself
Yeah.
in the wellness space.
Yeah. Yeah. And not that we're trying to bash on, necessarily like everyone that's on social media by any
No, of
means.
course not. There's a lot of awesome people out
Yeah,
there that are doing
exactly.
great things.
Yeah.
So,
And it's just a glimpse into their life, right? Like, it's good inspiration. It's good motivation. But it can't necessarily translate exactly into your life.
yeah,
Like I could go on there and just post about, all the good things that I'm doing,
yeah,
but there's also things that I could be doing better at. And I think that's
sure.
what we're here to talk about, kind of talk about, what habits
Mm-hmm.
do we currently have in our life, but also like how do you make change and how do you add
Mm-hmm.
better habits, and like
Yeah,
do they need to be these big changes or can they be small, right?
yeah,
I think more often than not they should be small.
100%. And wow, what a segue.
Yeah,
That
thank
was
you.
incredible. I think everyone should take note of that. That was fantastic. So, topic today, little habits, small habits, and how important they are and how they lead to big changes.
Yeah.
It's stringing together little habits, little changes, little things that add up to a big one.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can it's it's really about finding that point of entry, right? Think about if you got a great sandwich, right? You're about to you have this great sandwich, right? Right. And I'm sure
Whole wheat bread.
whole wheat bread, we've done maybe it's like some shredded chicken from the crock pot. We got a nice,
Chipotle mayo.
oh, that sounds pretty good too.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
But you're looking at that sandwich, you're like, where do I start? Where's my first bite of that sandwich? You don't take a bite of all bread, right? No, you're gonna get the one that's got the perfect ratio, the perfect entry point. That's what we're looking for with little habits. Find the perfect entry point. Find that spot that's like, this is not gonna be hard. I know I'm gonna enjoy it, and all I have to do is just a little bit more.
Yeah. I love that example, but I'm gonna play a little bit devil's advocate because I think that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what if you just get so caught up in finding that little entry point that you actually don't pull the trigger or you don't take the step,
Yeah.
the leap into taking that bite or to
Yeah.
taking on that new habit, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think that's something that I get myself into a lot too, is like when I want to start something new, or actually, here's a good example. I like to run, right? I run a lot. So for some reason, every time when I get towards the end of um, pair of my shoes, like, getting old. I need to
Yeah.
look for a new pair of shoes. I go down this rabbit hole of looking into all these different versions of shoes, whether
Mhm.
it's the same brand that I use, which is New Balance, shout out New Balance, or like I look into the new Nikes, I look into the new Sauconys, whatever the case is.
Sure.
And even though I've been buying New Balance for 8 years now,
Mhm.
right? But the point is like I look at all the reviews, I look at all the new stuff, and then I kind of get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if I'm choosing now New Balance because I'm overwhelmed and I just want to go back and revert to what
Ooh.
I've been doing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or if I'm truly choosing New Balance because it just is the right shoe for me and I really like it.
Mhm.
Um, Now I do think I choose New Balance because I like it. I have super wide feet,
Mhm.
but nonetheless, like that's a minor example of where you can just do all the research and just kind of get super stressed out and either revert and continue to do what you're doing
Mhm.
or not start anything at all.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I totally get that. I think and this is probably the most challenging piece is you just gotta stay just a little bit separate from the things you're trying and doing. That's hard, right? Like, obviously, it's your life that you're living, so you're, like, in it. But if you can find even just 30 seconds of, like, okay, like, my decision was one that I made. Is it helping me or hurting me? Are these shoes better, or do I not feel as good than I did before? Like, just take, like, 15 seconds to say, like, "Okay, what do I actually think? How does this actually make me feel?" And, like, I feel like, if you're looking at your shoe example there, it's like, have those shoes been serving me well? If yes, alright, let's stick with it. If no, let's find a new pair, right? Like, take it down to as little like, it's just simple, like, back to the simple thing. Make it as simple as a yes or a no question, right? Where because if you start to say, "Well, those could be better, those could be better," the grass is always greener,
Mm,
right? And there's always gonna be that moment of, "Wow, these shoes must be better. Oh, they're new, so course," right? And that's the same kind of thing with, like that I think we see we see a lot of people who there's this aspect of starting, they'll start eating a lot of vegetables, they'll start eating a lot of fruit, a lot of protein, doing a lot of really good stuff for their body, and they immediately see some change, and then it stops, right? And they're like, "Well, wait, why?" Like, "Well, it was like because it was new." And so now we fall to the level of our systems, we fall to the level of our habits, right? And so if your habit is not to go choose fruits and vegetables, healthy fats, proteins, not to go move, not to go to the gym, not to go climb a tree, do cartwheels, like all those things that like make people feel good, right? If that's not your system, then you're going to fall back to the level of your system and you'll stop feeling as good. You'll stop feeling that progress, right? So I
yeah.
I I think that's important to remember is, like, has those have the like, we fall to the level of our systems and so those little habits is what adds up to your system.
I've offered other dietitians before. I'm just saying that they might be a better fit.
Mhm.
You guys are in similar life stages.
Sure.
If you wanna reach out to them or, like, request them to make an appointment, or I can schedule you with them, XYZ.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I've definitely said that because it's, like yeah, especially, like, if I'm with talking to a male patient and they want a male dietitian, it's a little
Yeah.
bit different, um, that way too. So it just depends.
Yeah. I just think
Um
it's one of those things that's, like, I feel like the knowledge, like, the nutrition knowledge is so accessible that it's, like, what our job ends up being is not I mean, there is education, of course, um, but it's so much more partnership and
Mhm.
walking together through a journey, and so having, like, the right fit, I think, is important too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's hard to find. Even, like, personally, I'm thinking, like, yeah, I'm looking for a right fit for, like, a PCP.
Sure.
Like, things
Yeah.
like that, and imagine, like, our patients
Yeah, and I
too.
think I think that's super common just in general in the world right now. Like having the right fit so much more important too, especially the younger generations. Than I think it was ever before. Like before, I think you just went to an institution or like a clinic and just assume that that was it. right? But now with, the World Wide Web and
The
There's
social
lots of
media,
the
options.
World Wide Web.
the World Wide Web. And yeah, I mean, social media and all the options are like, there's some definite benefits, being able to jump around and find people that fit great with you.
Yeah,
But I think that can also cause, some drawbacks as well, if you're just jumping around because maybe you just don't want to hear what that person's saying,
yeah. Or you've
you know?
had too many bad experiences. We're like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
Which I feel like people that walk in our clinic have experienced that at other clinics too.
Yeah. I want to double click on that. I think, whether it's at other clinics or just maybe different experiences with applications,
Yeah,
like I don't want to call anyone, so I'm just gonna say like weight loss apps or different just programs, whether it's exercise as well, like fitness programs, that just don't go well,
yeah.
So they come here hoping that maybe they get different advice. But I think that what they end up finding out is it's similar advice, but we're also along for the journey,
Mhm.
and we're gonna listen to you a little bit more. I think that goes to the point of like kind of the beauty of having different dietitians, like different practicing dietitians.
Yeah, I think so too.
You know. So with that, how would you describe how you like to counsel your patients? Like, give us an example of maybe a recent patient and like how you went about it, or if you just want to describe like maybe how you approach talking with them.
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like it kind of just depends on the person. And like, I always try to get to know them at first and like just ask them something I learned from Derek actually is asking them about their weight story, which is really awesome.
All right, cool. I'm all
um,
feeling good. All
and then
right.
just like asking them like their actual goals, like why are you here essentially? Um, and then depending on how the conversation goes, because also length of time is a big factor in it. I just ask them more questions about themselves, particularly in their dietary preferences, I guess.
Have you ever gotten to the end of because we do these like 30-minute windows,
Yeah.
have you ever gotten to that 30 minutes and realized that you haven't even passed the story part yet?
Yes.
Because I've done that.
Yeah.
It's always like, "Oh, no. What have I
Yeah.
done?"
Yeah. Yeah. It's tragic. Like, I am very sorry.
Oh. See, I feel like I'm always like, see, yeah, and it's always it's on I wish there was just infinite time and we could just talk and talk and talk, but let's say you're making a potato soup, right? Like some sort of
Cheesy potato.
cheesy potato soup, loaded baked potato soup. It's got little bacon bits in there, some green onions sliced up. It looks great. Um, Oftentimes when you're making that kind of recipe, part of it calls for removing like a third of it or however much, putting it in a blender and pouring it back in to thicken it up a little bit. Which if you haven't tried that, I suggest it. It makes it much better. Um, what I like to do is I'll dump a can of white beans in with that mixture. And so now when I dump it back in, I am adding in extra fiber, extra protein into the thickened part of my soup. And you wouldn't notice it. It tastes the same. I mean, I think I did cannellini beans last time I did it, and they blended up really well because it's a pretty soft bean to begin with, and you wouldn't have known. No one would have known, and I did, which was fun. Um, and so that's a little thing that you can do that doesn't change a thing about your recipe except for adding those beans in there, and it's gonna make you feel a little more full, a little more satiated, add more protein, add more fiber. Easy little change that you can make to increase that.
Absolutely. And that's what everyone's looking for right now is more protein and more fiber,
Mhm.
right? Especially the fiber. I mean, everyone could use a little bit more fiber, in my
Everybody
opinion.
could use more
Yeah.
fiber.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guarantee you could use more fiber.
Yes.
Because it's really hard, I think is why, right? It's one of those that if it's not a habit for you to do, you are going to come in underneath your fiber kind of number
Yeah.
because you have to choose it all the time. And if you're not choosing it at every meal and every snack, you're just not gonna get there because most foods don't have a ton, right? You can build them up on with volume, but it's not like you can add in like I'll use a protein shake, for example. We're not gonna add 40 grams of like, we can add 40 grams of protein, no problem, having a protein shake,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which for most people that comes out to, if we said 40 grams, I mean that could be 50% of people's protein needs in one go. You're gonna have a hard time finding that with fiber.
Yeah. That's interesting because the first part of that, I was gonna push back a little
I knew
bit.
you were. I could see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and I knew you could see it
I
because you
knew I
kept
was right.
because you kept going. I'm not gonna say you're right. Actually, I mean, you are right to an extent. Like, it does come down to what you're used to a lot, right? And that makes a good point because, like I mentioned before, I used to not like my vegetables. I mean, gosh, I only like carrots not cooked, and I like corn, and only cooked. Right? Do you ever had raw, sweet corn
Have
off
I
the
ever
cob?
had raw? I have not, no.
Really
Good?
delicious. It's
Okay,
great.
alright.
Anyway, now clearly, like, I love a lot of different foods. There's not anything really out there that
Mhm.
I don't really like, besides olives. Olives are not good, in
Alright,
my personal opinion.
okay.
But, once you get that into your routine and you kinda start looking for it, then, yeah, it does get easy. So if you aren't doing that, how do you get to that point, or at least get a little bit better about it? And yeah, you can't just add a 40-gram fiber bomb to any sort of meal because trust me, it's going to feel like a bomb if you're not used to it, and that is not the right way to go.
Mhm.
So being a little bit more just focused on that and starting small, like where can you just
Yeah,
add in a snack that's higher in fiber? Because another thing with fiber too is that's unlike protein is if you're lacking protein, which most people probably aren't, but let's say you need a little supplement, you can easily add 30 to 40 grams without too much GI distress, right? If you were to even add probably 10 grams and let's say you're getting less than 10 grams a day of fiber, you're going to notice that like really quickly and it's probably going to upset your stomach to some extent.
mhm.
So where do you start and what do you add? And I think the beans is a great way to go about that because you're able to mix it into the soup. You don't see it visibly, but it's increasing it just enough, but not too much to probably cause too much of a reaction GI
Yeah.
wise
I mean, like, in a whole pot of soup, adding the beans probably adds, like 3 grams of fiber per serving or
per
something
yeah.
like that, right? Because it's just getting dispersed through the whole thing, and so just it's little things like that that as those become habit,
Yeah.
now you kind of can turn that corner where it's like, "Okay, I don't have to think about the basic stuff, and now when I add my snack, it kinda takes me to where I need
Yeah.
to be with fiber." I'm excited to learn more
Right.
about about the functional GI and kind of what that means and what that can mean for a patient. So, I think let's go ahead and kind of jump in. So, can we just start talking about kind of what that is, what the program is like, and the people that might end up there?
So, one thing that's actually really interesting, and I just learned about this summer, is the term functional GI is kind of phasing out in the world of GI. And what they're really calling this is disorders of gut brain interaction,
Because that's
or
easier to say.
DGBI, right? Because that's
DGBI.
easier.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
even DGBI doesn't
Flow very well.
flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. So, but I think that the reason the American College of Gastroenterology and some of those kind of governing bodies in GI have started to address these conditions as DGBI is because really at the base, at the core, it is a disorder of the gut brain communication. We call it functional GI, and the reason we call it functional GI is because at its simplest, it really is an issue with the function. So something between top to bottom is not functioning the way it is supposed to be, but we cannot give it an organic source. So it's not Crohn's. We can see Crohn's in a scope,
Mhm.
right? It's not ulcerative colitis. We can see that. It's not celiac disease. I can test for that. It's not colon cancer. It's not hemorrhoids. It's not something that we can diagnostically confirm. So a lot of times it just gets lumped into IBS or irritable bowel syndrome, which is accurate. That is a functional GI problem. Sometimes it's an undiagnosed thing that people just say, oh, it's like tummy troubles. Like my bowel movements are never right. They're either loose or they're not. I have chronic constipation, but I don't know why. Um, so a lot of times it's that something's not functioning right, but I don't know what it is. and it might not have a diagnosis, right? We might not be able to put a label on what's going on other than dyspepsia or chronic cough or, something of the like, where we can name what's happening, but we don't have a reason. And so those things fall into your functional category. So they're all really hard, I think. Like the the people that come into this program likely have been in the healthcare system for a long time trying to figure out what's going on with them, because they, by definition, they are things that have been happening for 6 months or longer. And honestly, usually it's years. People that have been coming to us, I've been struggling with this for years, but the criteria to formally diagnose is more than 6 months.
How do you feel like that kind of thinking has translated now to GI and what you do now?
One thing that I really didn't realize was how many patients in the gastroenterology world are chronic patients. We have so many people that deal with a chronic GI illness or have many acute bouts of something that happens over and over and over. Very rarely do we see a patient fix them and send them on their way right away. It's usually more complex and more in depth. And so you do have a chance to develop the relationships. My providers in the GI department, they know their people. And they know them and they come back and they know their story and they know what's worked for them, what hasn't. And so I didn't realize how chronic the patient population was going to be,
Mm.
which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and with that complexity that you mentioned, like, how do you guys go about that? Is it the practitioners doing it all, or like, what have you noticed?
In traditional GI, you are, managed either by your gastroenterologist or a mid-level provider, your NP or your PA. But their training is pretty extensive when it comes to GI in terms of what other systems play into that function. So they're not only looking from esophagus down to rectum. I mean, they're looking at how your other digestive portions of, like of your system play in. They are looking at the liver, they're looking at the gallbladder, they're looking at those external stressors. They're
Mm.
paying attention to what their diet is, and they're not giving that education. But I would say my providers are very good at looking at a whole body, even though you're coming to see GI,
Mhm.
they're looking outside of just the GI tract because of how much communication there is in our body between our gut and our digestive system and everything else. So
Wow.
they're
Yeah.
like they're pinpointed, but they're broad. Does that make sense? Right?
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
they're treating a specific set of organs, but they look outside of them
Yeah.
to find the problem,
'Cause
which is I think really hard. Like I couldn't do what they do all day.
Yeah,
It's a lot to look at. They're
it's
like,
a
well, it could
puzzle.
be this, or it could be this, right? This
Yeah.
could be unrelated. So
I feel like, yeah, it's so easy to, think you shouldn't be doing something because, you need to be happy all the time,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Um, Maybe we can talk about that. Why do we need to be happy all the time,
Oh
Rachel?
my gosh, we don't need to be happy all the time. We don't need to be happy all the time. I think we think we need to be, and I don't know why. I don't know where that has come from. But we don't. I mean, we have all these different emotions. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be, angry, whatever. It's just how we handle it, right? So I don't know. I think it's almost this push to like, yeah, you have to be happy. But I think if you truly ask somebody, they would tell you no. I mean, even if they come off that they're really happy all the time, no, you can't be that 100% of the time.
Mhm. Yeah.
Talk to people about dialectical behavior therapy. We talk about the different states of mind. So we have an emotional mind, a wise mind, and then a reasonable mind. Reasonable mind and emotional mind make up wise mind. So it's a combination of the two. You cannot be in wise mind all the time. You're gonna be in reasonable mind. You're gonna be in emotional mind at times. So it's kind of the same deal. You can't be happy all the time. It's just not possible.
It's so funny to hear, not funny, it's so interesting to hear like you talk about these different parts or different minds that we can exist in and all the different language that's kind of in the more common vernacular.
Yeah.
Where it's like, take a step back and look at the whole picture. Maybe like bring yourself into your wise mind, right? Like,
Yeah.
or, get down close to the issue. Like that's maybe more of like what we said, what were the three? Reasonable
Yes.
mind. You're like, okay, I'm gonna get really close to it, use my logic and figure this out. Like it's just so cool to hear kind of how like all of that, like people use the term, like we think about those things.
Yeah.
It's just it's not often enough, and we usually don't have the tools to recognize when we're switching between the two and on how to use that effectively. So that's really cool to kind of relate that to. That's cool.
Yeah, it is, because when you think about it, like your reasonable mind is it's logic, it's facts, it's all the things, and then emotional mind obviously is our emotions. We let that go. Wise mind is like your combination of the two. So I always give the example of, did you guys watch The Big Bang Theory, or did you watch The Big Bang Theory?
I didn't watch it all, but yeah, I watched quite a bit of it.
It's my favorite sitcom of all time.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Dr. Sheldon Cooper, reasonable mind all the time, right? All the time. Penny would probably be your one that's emotional mind, right?
Yeah.
Leonard, I feel like, is your combo of the two. I also talk to people about doctors, or us as providers. We want to know the facts, right? You want your provider to know the facts, but you also want them to have a good bedside manner, right? They have to have that emotion pulled into it too. That's wise mind. That's the combination of the two. I can be, I can know all the facts and know what I'm doing, know what I'm talking about, but I also have to be personable and meet you where you're at.
Interesting. I think about that too. Like you mentioned just a minute ago, like you can't always live in the wise mind. You can't do it. And yet we spend so much of our day there.
Yeah.
I have to, because otherwise I'm not doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that it's so easy to kind of get burned out as you leave, as the day's over, you're just like, oh goodness, I don't have anything left to give. I need a second to reset. Like that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, but it's acknowledging that and knowing that, and okay, now what do I need to do to take care of myself? Because today's been rough. So
yeah, it's all about, what's sustainable for you. Are you what are you tracking? I think that's super important too. Or what are you trying to improve upon? Not that you always have to be improving, but are you still getting these screenings that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Are you still checking in to make sure that you're living the healthy life that you believe you're living? And if not, what can we do to maybe, alter that a little bit? And what's going to, benefit you in the long run?
Gosh, and I think about too, I feel like it's, like you said, people think in the short term. And I love,
easy to do.
I love to use sports as my analogy, because enough people kind of know what I'm talking about, and sports translate to our real lives so well, so well. And I think about since it's football season, I think about an NFL team, right? They train all year to prepare their bodies for fall camp, where they then practice for weeks on end to then prepare for their first game, where they then are playing, trying to get better, trying to figure out, okay, what are our problems? Can we win enough of these games to put ourselves in position to play in the playoffs?
Yeah.
And then you keep going, and they keep going, and they keep going. And it's that consistency, right? We think about what teams win. Usually the team that doesn't get hurt, right? So it's the ability to be consistent every week.
Yeah.
Right. Can we be together all the whole time? And then as they prepared, that's when you have a chance to go win a championship. And so then I think about what that looks like in our lives. It's the consistency factor, right? If you go big and burn bright for a month, well, you're not going to be ready to go take on whatever challenge is coming next.
Yeah.
Because that's all it is what's next, right? Because we that's what life is, just perpetual. Life the sun keeps rising and setting. It does, right?
No, it does.
And so, and that's where we get back to kind of, to me, the wellness program is it's not about these statistics are great, but that's not a finish line.
Yeah.
Right. The wellness program is about perpetuating health and improving it in those who maybe didn't see what they needed to see this past year.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't end.
Yeah.
Just keeps going.
Yeah. there's this guy out there, and then we can move on and talk about it. But his name's Gordo Byrne. I think I brought him up to you before. But to your point about like using athletes as an example, he talks about how like so many people try and like set like whether it's a 5K goal or a lifting goal or a weight goal, whatever the case is, for like 3 or 6 months, that like no professional athlete or no one at the highest level is thinking about that short of a term. Like he argues that we should be thinking about like those 1,000 days. We should be more on like that Olympic goal, like every 4 years. But to set that goal for that point in time, and then you have all those like many things below, to your point, practice versus performance, right? So you have all these practice moments that get you consistent, maybe a few performances in there, but you're all leading up to that ultimate performance or that ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And then after you hit that Olympic time or whatever you want to call it, you have that reflection point, which we talked about. You've already built some great habits and consistency. What can you alter? Throughout there, you're already altering things, but just expanding that time that you are setting that goal for, so it allows you the freedom to play around with it and ultimately make it sustainable for you. Because it's probably going to change quite a bit from day 1 to day 99 or 999.
Yeah.
Right. So
we talked about at the beginning of this podcast being present, right? And celebrating, commiserating losses, but then moving on from them so you can be present in the next moment. I think in order to be able to celebrate the small moments, you've got to be present. And I think that's something sometimes that I struggle with, is being here, not metaphorically here, because I'm either dwelling past success or loss, thinking about a future success or loss or whatever. And so being in that moment, in the small times, is challenging. And so, no, I don't think I celebrate my small wins enough, because sometimes I think I miss them. So I think that's I think that's it, right? Like, you're trying to make really good choices for yourself when it comes to food, but also at the same time, socially enjoying around, building strong relationships. It all feels like so much. But if you're in the moment, it's a whole lot easier, right? All you have to do in that moment is choose a little more protein and give somebody a high five or a hug. Stronger relationships, stronger body, just like that. Because you're in the moment. If you think about it all at once, man, it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It's a lot.
Yeah, and you can't do it all by yourself. I think that's a big thing that you kind of touched on there, is having those relationships require having, it's one relationship with yourself, but 2 relationships with others as well. Whether that's relationship or plural, like multiple, like still having that strong connection is super important in all this, whether it's one person you fall on for everything or a couple individuals for different areas of your life, like having that, that system, support system, mentorship, whatever it is. Different ages too, doesn't have to be someone that's going through the same thing as you. Maybe it's someone that either went through it or went through a different situation, but has, the listening ear and the wisdom to, help you work through whatever it is. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this was a wild episode.
It was. It went all over the place a little bit, but you know what? I feel like it did kind of, it was what I think maybe both of us needed.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But at the same time, hopefully the people can glean a little something from it too, right?
Yeah.
Man, at the end of the day, just...
Well, I think one thing, something we can end on, is we're starting to find our groove in this podcast situation, even though we keep changing up the setup. We're figuring that part out yet. Or still, like, we have a couple interviews we feel really good about that are going up now and are going to be going up in the next couple of weeks. And we have a couple really cool interviews scheduled that will be coming soon. And as we continue to have these conversations that maybe don't have a great outline, eventually that'll continue to like guide us to having maybe a more formal or at least like we don't have to come with notes, but like a good path through the conversation. But my whole point is it's everything that we talked about. And that's the reason I bring it up, is we're just starting to feel like we're in a good groove here. At least I am. I don't mean to speak for you, but the point is it's been a few months at this point
Mm-hmm.
of working through kinks, of having some setbacks,
Yeah.
getting extremely frustrated with it. But now the next step for me, and I think now I got to vocalize this, is getting this really pushed out there to the world. And that's something that scares me. That part scares me. I love doing stuff in the dark, but actually like having people now, like me tell them that it's in the dark and go look at it, that's what worries me.
Yeah.
If they found it, that's okay.
Putting yourself on stage is a challenge.
Yeah. So all that being said, I'm super excited about what's coming out, what's about to come out, and hopefully people start enjoying
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
content that we have.
Yeah. Do you find that like once people have the surgery, what's the kind of the difference between their ability to maintain? Because I feel like most people can try and lose 10 pounds, right? No matter
For
whether you
sure.
have surgery or not, lose 10 pounds,
For
great.
sure.
Obviously, we encounter the people who lose the 10 pounds and then gain 20,
Mhm.
right? So kind of what's the success rate beyond a year
Yep.
after having surgery?
Most of the studies, if you look long term, if you look 3, 4, 5, 8 years later, average, whatever their weight loss that they achieve with the surgery, 50% will maintain that weight loss. 50% of people will gain back. And they always tell me, oh, my surgery's not working. It's terrible. And then I say, well, yeah, but are you going out to the bar drinking with friends every night? Are you eating a lot more carbohydrates? You lost weight. Now you're partying and doing things. That's when the secondary factors start to come in. Now, it could be that I'm wrong, and it could be that their other hormones are upregulating or increasing their appetite. But I think that's why it's really exciting. I would say we're in a renaissance right now. We have such good treatments. For example, if I do a sleeve gastrectomy and I remove 70% of your stomach to remove 70% of these appetite producing cells, and like you say, you do well, you lose 80 pounds, you're fantastic. 5 years from now, you start to gain a little bit of weight. We can add a GLP, we can add a GIP, we can add the medications will all work better after the surgery. And every study shows the surgery will get better weight loss if we use medications with it. So I think we're at a tipping point right now because it's always been a cost issue or different things. But as these costs come down, you could take that patient if 5 years later something happens and their appetite starts to increase, let's just add a medication. We tell people we're like a carpenter. We have a tool belt with a lot of tools, and we can try all these different tools. Maybe it's counseling. Maybe it's just working with a dietitian about making good food choices. Maybe it's a medication, but we have a lot of options. So, but the first step, by far the most proven for dramatic weight loss is either surgery or one of the new medications.
I'm a big numbers guy, so I just want to make something clear about that because you said 3 to 5 years after, they still maintain about 50% of their lost weight.
Half of the patients will maintain. So let's say your BMI is 45 and you're 150 pounds overweight.
Okay.
And we do surgery, you're going to average 60% of the excess weight gone. So we would tell that patient, on average, you're going to lose 90 pounds. So a year later, maybe they're down 80, 85, 90. 3 years later, half of those patients maintain all that weight loss.
Okay.
But then half of them will gain back some.
Sure.
And that's where we really got to figure out why are we gaining. That's where I think it's also crucial to work with a team that specializes in weight loss. I worry because as the meds are becoming more prevalent and you can get them, you can go to these hormone replacement clinics, you can go to chiropractors, you can go to family docs, you can have all these people giving you the medications. It's great. And I would say we're all on the same team. We're all trying to do the best.
Yeah.
But you're not getting the dietitian counseling. You're not getting the psychiatric counseling. You're not getting. So I think you'll get better long-term results by seeing a specialized team. That's all we do here.
So do you feel like as you were working through that first 100 pounds of weight loss, like all of those habits that you built then, like do you feel like that was a huge kind of jumping off point for you once you then started the GLP-1? Without that, would it have gone the same way, do you think?
I will tell you that, and I tell people this, like it's something I say so regularly because obviously people are always asking. I would never do it a different way because I would not have known what was necessary had I not failed, learned. had I not continuously realized that like every day I have to do a plan of the same thing. You know, I compare it to that Groundhog's Day movie with Bill Murray. Like, have you guys
Yeah.
ever seen that movie, or
Yeah. Oh,
like, am
yeah.
I too old? Okay. So like, you know, he like relives the same day over and over again. Like, essentially, that's how you need to approach this. Like, you set yourself a goal of a food goal, a water goal, a movement goal, and a sleep goal, and every day you do your best to hit those 4 goals. And some days you're going to have a 2 out of 4 day, and some days you're going to have a 1 out of 4 day. I just do everything I can in my power to never have a 0 day at this point. And that has been where I have found success, you know, like, cause there are days where, I mean, I'm a human being. I still eat chocolate. I still eat chocolate more in excess than I should. Like, I'm never going to tell you that it's perfect, because it's not. It's impossible to make it that way. That's why most of us fail at this, because we're trying every day to do it perfectly. And then the second we screw it up, everything's just discounted. You know, it's all gone, because we screwed this one area of this health journey up, and we didn't do it perfectly. So that's when we quit. And this time I said, okay, no matter what, I'm just going to keep pushing into it, no matter how messy it is. And like, literally, I just read the quote, like, your mess is your message. And I'm like, that's me, because I've done this in such an imperfect way, but it's been, you know, it's
But
been
is there a
successful.
perfect way? Right? I think that's
No,
an
there's
ultimate. Yeah,
not.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's the thing you have to grasp onto, is like, it's never perfect. Nothing's perfect.
exactly. Yeah. And it's all about one day at a time. Right.
That's amazing.
And we literally just got done talking about this last week, but we always, or what I like to do is zoom out. When I talk to patients, I say, let's just slow down. I don't want you to be hit those 4 out of 4 every day, every week even. But when you zoom out and look at a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you see how consistent that looks versus zooming in at the granular, that's what we're going for. Right. And I
Yeah,
think that's
and
exactly to your story.
it's so hard to be the person, because the emotions get so wrapped into it. You know, a lot of people hold value in what they do right and do wrong. And that part sucks, because I still find myself guilty of that, where I hold value in the things that I do good and the things that I do bad. And I've already decided, like, you know, if I stuck to my calorie deficit to a T today, then I did good, you know, and that's a good thing. But like, that's not practical. And at the end of all of this, you know, I also have taught myself that like life is a book. It's just such a funny cliche analogy, but like, and you can't read an entire book in one day. And it's like the same thing I've heard many people talk about, especially like when you're brushing your teeth, like, you can't solve a issue with clean teeth by brushing your teeth for 2 hours a day. It's the 2 minutes every day that have the long-term effects for you. And like, I don't know where this whole breakdown happened. You know, I don't know if it's just because we look at body image, or we look at this and look at that, and why we've all decided that this has to be an instant thing, you know, or like where that ever came from. But like, once somebody can take themselves emotionally away from their self and look at it objectively, and treat their health journey as a science experiment, you know, and kind of be like, okay, why didn't I do that well? Like, why do I feel like overeating at this point of the day? I can tell you why I choose to overeat sometimes, or like why not choose, but why I feel like overeating. And even using GLP-1 medication, like I still have those moments, and I've been on it so long, like, cause I'm still on it, and I think I'll be a person who's on it for life. It's also helped control blood sugar for me. So, you know, there's that.
So my main role here
Mhm.
is I help out with all of the weight loss surgeries. It's primarily the sleeve gastrectomy, um, and then support people after surgery. You know, I do a lot of the follow-up appointments, at least for the first 6 months. It kind of depends on staffing and where the patient's from, and so sometimes it's less than that, sometimes more than that. But um, I just feel like one of my biggest strengths is just compassion and optimism, just trying to build people up, you know, and encourage them along the way. I have worked at clinics where they kind of beat people down. It's very negative. I've worked with dietitians that are like that in previous spots where it's very demeaning and people don't want to come. You know, they're going to feel like a failure, which I hate that word.
Yeah.
Patients say that all the time, and I can't stand that word. But, you know, that's not the right approach. And I know from experience, like most of our patients have struggled in a lot of ways, whether that's emotionally, mentally, with health problems, with the stigma that's related to being overweight. There's a lot of discrimination out there. So I've learned that a lot over the years and heard some very sad stories. Even other healthcare providers, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
treating them differently and
Yeah.
looking down on them. So I think at the core of what I do, I always keep that in mind, and just try to always provide a positive slant of things. I think that's really important.
Where do you think that comes from? Like that core you talk about, like that compassion, because I would totally agree with you. You are extremely compassionate. I remember when I first met you, like you just made this entire clinic feel, I felt the optimism. I felt the compassion. I felt, I just felt better about myself leaving that conversation with you. And it was probably just a brief hallway interaction, right? So where do you think that comes
I think it's innate. I don't know. It's not something that I force or that I think about. I think just at the end of the day, you're judged on how you treat people, and there's biblical stuff. You treat people how you want to be treated, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that's probably the foundation of it. But I hope it never changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as you get older, sometimes maybe your
Get a little
personality changes
little more cynical.
bit, especially in healthcare. That
Sure.
can happen for sure.
Yeah.
Just get a little jaded or whatever, however you want to call it,
Yeah.
right? Like, so I hope that doesn't change, but I don't know exactly where that comes from.
Yeah. I don't think you have to have an answer. I just totally agree with you.
Yeah.